Why gold making feels dead. Hi there, I'm Goldenrots, and today we'll be taking a look at why farming feels dead. Um, there's been a lot of talk, I guess, not really a whole lot, but there's been people saying that gold farming is just dead. Now, granted, a lot of people are saying WoW's dead, but to each their own on that. I personally feel like WoW is dying out, but that's not why gold making feels dead. So, today, we're going to take a look at why gold making feels dead. So, for those who don't know, gold making back in Battle for Azeroth was just insane. You know, you could make a ton of gold really quickly. You could do raw gold farms. You could do any kind of farm you want, and you could make around 20k an hour. Well, and now you can make maybe 10k an hour if you're lucky. You know, and I know there's probably gonna be a lot of people saying, "Well, I can make more than that an hour by doing this or by doing that or just buy a WoW token," or that's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the average amount of gold that you can make while farming solo. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? Gold making's not really dead because when I go out and farm, I'm still making a lot of sales. I'm still able to pick up the same amount of materials I've always been able to pick up on a lot of the farms that I usually farm, but prices are cheaper. And this was before the auction house change. I'd really like to note that this was definitely before the auction house change. But prices were cheaper. And I thought about it, and I was like, okay, there's not much here. It's just they're cheaper. Well, I thought more about why it was cheaper, and Blizzard had nerfed a lot of the raw gold farms, so there's not as much raw gold being put into the economy right now. But back in Battle for Azeroth, there was a ton of raw gold that was being put into the economy, a ton of it. Then Blizzard comes out with this mount that costs 5 million gold just so you can use it. That was the Mighty Brunosaurus, or the Mighty Cavern Brutosaur, also known as Long Boy or whatever else everybody knows it as. Either way, where do you think all the gold went? Let me ask you that. You know, we don't just have I don't know how to explain this. We don't just go from making 20 to 30k an hour to making maybe 5 to 10k an hour in the matter of all of that, and people are just really complaining because gold making's dead, or they can't make as much gold as they used to, or you name it, anything that's negative about gold making, they're talking about it. But gold making's not actually dead. All the gold literally went to those Brutosaurus mounts and back into the system. And Blizzard has been watching very closely the amount of raw gold that is put into the game now. So something like making 20, 30k an hour doesn't happen again, because if they let that continue, then prices would inflate, prices would just be all over the place. Um, and the inflation is just normal. It's a normal thing. It's happening in real life right now. It's gonna happen in any MMO. It's gonna happen wherever you go. But what if there was a way to counter that inflation. You don't want Elementium ore to be 30, 40 gold per unit like it was, if I remember right, or that was Obsidian. Pretty sure that was Obsidian. You don't want Obsidian to be that high of a price. Nobody farms it, yeah, I understand that. But that's a very high price for a material when all you have to do is cut out some of the gold that players have, and you're basically starting fresh. That's what, at least that's the way I look at it for what Blizzard was doing. They're looking at practically a fresh start for gold makers. Now, a lot of people had a problem with that, granted, but for the most part, you're still able to make gold. Not as much gold, don't get me wrong. I've heard a lot of people say that Blizzard's just going after gold farmers, but they're really not. They're trying to make the game a lot better for gold farmers. And the best way to do that is to stop inflation. Because all inflation does is it causes more raw gold farms. It causes more expensive stuff that's not real, like unnecessarily expensive stuff. It forces people to go out and farm rather than buy it themselves, because when you see a high price on something, you're not like, oh, I'll just buy that out. You're going to be like, I'll just go farm that. And that defeated the purpose of the auction house. The auction house was there for players to buy materials they need off the auction house and use it for themselves, or maybe use a shuffle, or you name it. That's what the auction house is there for. Well, when players resort to going out and farming materials themselves, as opposed to buying it off the auction house, that's a bit of a problem. Because, like, for me, I have a really hard time spending gold, and I know I'm not the only one out there that is like that. So, from my personal experience, I don't want to spend 30 to 40 gold per unit on obsidian. I'd go out and farm that. Whereas if it was, say, 10 gold a unit, I'd buy that. Like, granted, I don't like spending my gold, but I'd rather spend 10 gold than 30 to 40. It doesn't matter how much gold's in the system. It's just, I would never spend that much gold on obsidian when, back in Cataclysm, it was only probably a couple of gold per unit. I think it was at like 3 gold per unit. So, Blizzard's not hurting gold farmers at all. They're not trying to. I know it feels like they are, and I know I've argued with some on it, trying to explain to them that no, they're not hurting gold farmers. They're trying to get rid of all of the unnecessary gold that's overflowing the game. Which, speaking of which, for those who don't know, there is a gold sync mount every 2 expansions. This started in Wrath of the Lich King, and they have done a new gold sync mount every 2 expansions since. So I'm really excited to see what this gold sync mount will be. It'll probably only cost 1 mil, maybe 2 mil, I'm thinking. I don't think they'll go up to 5 mil again, because that 5 mil was just to get rid of all of that access raw gold that was being put into the game. So yes, raw gold farming has hurt the game. That's why I try to stay away from it. I do know I post some about it, but it's not like game-breaking raw gold farms like what you used to see back in Battle for Azeroth. So, in short, gold making isn't dead. It's better than it's ever been. Like I can throw something on the auction house now and it'll sell. Like I can almost guarantee a sell. I've made 250k on one character from just shuffling. I've made about 30k on this character from testing stuff. I have not had any issues selling stuff on the auction house now, where as opposed to it being the auction house being a like server auction house rather than a regional auction house, I've been able to sell a lot more. Back when it was a server auction house, I wasn't selling hardly anything. Gold making was not fun for me anymore. And Blizzard's realized that. They value the gold farmers just as much as they value PvPers or raiders. And the reason why is because without gold makers, everybody would be forced to go farm their own materials. And Blizzard doesn't want that. They want the use of the auction house. That's one of the biggest things they want is people to use the auction house. That's why they made the auction house change. Was so people can either A, go buy materials that they can't normally buy off the auction house, or B, sell materials that they can't normally sell off the auction house. So, gold making is not dead at all. Just because you're making less gold than what you were before doesn't really mean a whole lot. That's kind of like saying Pokemon cards, for example, they're inflated or were inflated really bad right about now, I guess about a year ago, I should say. They were inflated really bad, and they're still kind of inflated, but not as bad as they were. But Pokemon cards, people were buying bulk, so theoretically buying off the auction house as opposed to buying new cards, aka farming. And it's because the bulk cards were cheaper than the retail, or the sealed, I should say, the sealed. So when you take a look at that, or when you look at that in like gold making, you can only imagine somebody going out and farming as opposed to using the auction house. Like bulk cards were nothing special. You didn't get hardly anything special from bulk cards. But you had a chance of getting something good from the sealed cards. Either way, I know I've said this several times already, but gold making isn't dead. I don't know why people think it is. I really don't. And this is coming from somebody who has literally farmed since day one. I had never played an MMO before. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever to go in Darkshore and farm the lasty looking things that spawn up around here, I think is where it was. Or the Loch Ness Monster looking things, I should say, for those who don't know who Lassie is. But I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I reached gold cap on my trial account, which was like 20 gold back then. And I was so happy about it, you know. I was like, holy cow, this is fun. You know, so I've literally been farming since day one. And hearing all this talk about how gold making is dead just really sets something off in me, you know. It's just like, no, gold making is not dead. Why would you say it's dead? It's better than ever. You know, like back then, you used to throw stuff up on the auction house and hope it would sell. You know, you'd spend hours farming something or a specific type of material, and you know, you'd be like, well, I hope this sells. You know, and chances are that meant that it probably wasn't actually going to sell. But now, I have not had any problem selling Elementium on the auction house. Now, people never used to buy Elementium. You know, I've not had any problems selling Volatile Water, Volatile Fire, Volatile Earth. I haven't had a hard time selling Pyrite Ore. You name it. You know, I have not had a problem selling stuff. The only time I have a problem selling something is when it's priced too high. Or if I'm undercut. But just think about what I said throughout this video. Watch it again if you have to. I know it was very long. Uh, I didn't script it. I wanted it to be heartfelt. But just think about what I said, please. You know, gold making isn't dead. But that's all for now. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.